Hollywood slammed the door more than once on a show about Jesus. Too niche, they said. Too risky. Too preachy. So Dallas Jenkins, a small-town director whose resume boasted one indie movie and a short film about a farm, did what any stubborn Midwesterner would do. He asked the internet for lunch money. $5 here, 20 there. A few weeks later, the campaign exploded. Before anyone yelled action, The Chosen had become the biggest crowd-funded media project ever, $10 million pledged by strangers. Fast forward 4 seasons and the stats are wild. 430 million views, 50-plus languages, and 1/3 of the audience tuning in from outside the United States. The gatekeepers who said hard pass now study the numbers with their mouths half open, while viewers from Manila to Manchester quote lines in Spanish, Swahili, and Korean. How did a sidestepped Bible series slip past every velvet rope and turn into a global pop culture moment? That's the story we're unpacking. Headlines love the happy ending and skip the early bloodletting. Dallas pitched The Chosen to every streamer that had even a tiny faith button. Each meeting ended the same. Polite smiles, then a hard no. We'd love to, but where's the audience data? Translation: we don't believe Jesus moves merch. Jenkins walked out of those rooms with nothing but a handshake and the growing certainty that if this show was going to live, it needed a new playbook. The joke writes itself. Hollywood will greenlight zombie shark mashups without blinking, yet balks at a first-century rabbi whose memoir outsells every book on the planet. So Jenkins went home, cracked open his laptop, and wrote a crowdfunding post that started, "I'm not asking you to fund a TV show. I'm asking you to buy the front row seat to a miracle." Timing, authenticity, and a quiet worldwide hunger did the rest. Crowdfunding isn't new. Hello, Veronica Mars, Kung Fury, and that potato salad guy. But financing a multi-season Jesus drama with zero network safety net? That's brand new territory. The first goal was tame. $1 million for a pilot. They hit it in 48 hours. Then the team did something nuts. They kept the campaign alive with daily live streams, stretch goals, and budgets so transparent they listed fish smell as a line item. That detail isn't trivia. It's the difference between a soundstage and a village that smells like nets and brine. When donations sailed past 10 million, nobody popped bubbly. They quietly booked warehouse space in Utah and started pouring concrete for Capernaum. The crowd that funded the show became its marketing team, street team, and 24/7 prayer chain. No billboards on Sunset, just hashtags like #BingeJesus racing across TikTok faster than any ad buy. Let's talk texture. Most biblical epics look like marble gift shop displays. Polished floors, British accents, halos on demand. The Chosen does the opposite. The village, built from scratch in rural Utah, has uneven stone alleys, dust you can feel in your teeth, and goats that will chew your shoelaces if you stand still. The first time you see it, you half expect to smell salt from the Galilee shoreline. Characters come with backstories Sunday school skipped. Matthew isn't a one-line tax collector. He's probably on the spectrum, flinching at sudden noises, comforted by columns of numbers. Little James limps with cerebral palsy, and it's part of his identity, not a very special episode. Jesus, played by Jonathan Roumie, cracks jokes about Galilean weddings and laughs until he wipes his eyes. Miracles hit harder because they land in a world that smells like fish guts and feels like sunburn. When Jesus heals a paralytic, the crowd's gasp is raw, the kind that makes you grab your seat. You're not watching the Gospels, you're eavesdropping on them. Every script survives a theological gauntlet. Imagine this Zoom room: a Messianic rabbi, a Catholic priest, and an evangelical New Testament scholar, all locked in polite but intense debate over comma placement in Aramaic phrases. Their mission isn't to sanitize the text, it's to keep the drama faithful without turning it into a sermon. Take the feeding of the 5,000. Early drafts had the disciples dropping mini-sermons between every basket of fish. The committee axed those lines, arguing the miracle itself was sermon enough. The final cut lingers on a kid handing over his lunch instead of on Peter's voiceover. You walk away thinking, I'd have handed over my lunch too. which is exactly the point. They also catch cultural blind spots. When a writer wanted a gag about Samaritan cuisine, the rabbi reminded the room that Samaritan grandmas would be watching. Every line survives that three-way pressure cooker, and it shows. Let's talk numbers. The Chosen streams in every country except North Korea, and even there, bootleg flash drives reportedly make the rounds. Translation teams work 24/7. Korean subtitles dropped 3 days after the Season 4 finale. In Brazil, fans held a beach watch party on Copacabana with a projector and a generator. In Lagos, a youth group rewatched the series so many times they now call themselves the Chosen Squad, complete with matching purple hoodies. All this without a single traditional ad. Revenue trickles in from the 1% of viewers who voluntarily pay it forward, about 43,000 people bankrolling the other 99%. The math is bonkers. One viewer buys the tab for 99 strangers. When Season 6 needs 30 million for its finale, the model still balances, barely. Jenkins jokes that if it ever collapses, he'll sell fish and loaves merch at Costco. Remember 2020? Productions shut down worldwide. The Chosen had already scheduled a crowd scene that needed thousands of extras. Instead of canceling, they posted on social media, "Bring your own robes, sandals, baskets, snacks, and stand 6 feet apart on a Texas hillside." 2,000 volunteers showed up in homemade costumes. A grandma from Arkansas baked loaves at 3 a.m. because somebody has to feed the disciples. The scene works because those aren't CGI faces. They're quarantine-weary people starved for community. When cameras rolled, the director told the crowd, "Pretend you've been stuck at home for 6 months and someone just handed you fresh bread." The tears are real. So is the laughter. The blooper reel shows a Roman centurion sneezing in his helmet and a kid chasing a goat through frame. COVID could have killed the show. Instead, it gave it a communal soul transplant. Executives are watching and they're sweating bullets. Not because they hate the show, most quietly love it, but because it proves their risk models are junk. Faith-based content was supposed to tap out at 60 million domestic box office and maybe a TBN licensing deal. The Chosen just passed 400 million views and streams on Amazon Prime without algorithmic boosts. Trade blogs now run headlines like, "What The Chosen Can Teach Netflix." The answer? Audiences will pay for authenticity even when it's free. Studios are scrambling. One streamer just greenlit a gritty David and Goliath series with crowd-funded extras, then added a dragon for, brand synergy. Jenkins, meanwhile, keeps his head down on Season 5. When asked if he'd ever sell the IP, he grins. It's already owned by 19,000 people on a Google Drive spreadsheet. If you've watched this far and still haven't seen the show, pause, grab the free app, and come back. I'll wait. Drop a comment with your favorite character. I'll bet it isn't who you expect. Section 8, the personal hook that keeps people binge-watching. Ask viewers why they can't stop, and one answer keeps showing up. I see myself in these people. Mary Magdalene isn't a stained-glass saint, she's a trauma survivor who flinches at loud voices. Simon Peter isn't the Rock, he's a human wrecking ball with impulse control issues. People relate because their own Mondays look like tax deadlines and panic attacks, not psalm sing-alongs. When Jesus invites Matthew to follow him, the dialogue is gloriously awkward. You don't talk much. Neither do you. That stilted exchange lands harder than any sermon because anyone who's ever felt socially out of sync hears permission in it. The writers call this holy awkwardness, and it's the secret sauce. You binge because you need to see if the guy who can't make eye contact finally gets invited to the table. Spoiler alert, he does, and he brings his spreadsheets. Subtitling a Jesus show is way trickier than translating Marvel one-liners. Ancient names shift across cultures. Rabbi in Hindi becomes Gurudev, which carries different baggage. The translation team keeps a Slack channel titled Jesus Puns That Won't Work in Mandarin. Meanwhile, fans crowdsource fixes faster than the pros. A viewer in Finland spotted a subtitle error in Matthew's coin-counting scene. 4 hours later, the correction rolled out worldwide. Radical accessibility has an upside. The downside? Pirates in Indonesia splice footage into Islamic boarding school lectures. Dallas shrugs. If kids in Jakarta are arguing about whether Jesus had a sense of humor, I'll take the free publicity. Here's the current math. Season 1 episodes cost $400,000 apiece. Season 4 nudged $2 million each. The planned Season 6 finale needs a full Jerusalem set, CGI crowds and horses, lots of horses. Budget, $30 million. Jenkins won't gate the episode behind paywalls, so the same crowdfunding engine that bought the first goat now has to buy a digital temple. Industry insiders call the upcoming GoFundMe suicide. Fans call it Tuesday. As of this week, the fund sits at $12 million with 8 months left. If the trend holds, they'll squeak across the finish line, and Hollywood will watch in horror as a finale nobody paid to see racks up Super Bowl-level viewership for free. You can't quantify a prayer circle in Paraguay, yet it's happening. Nurses in Texas rewatch episodes in hospital break rooms to decompress. A prison ministry in Ohio screens The Chosen for inmates who tattoo imago on their forearms. My Muslim buddy watches to learn about Isa because the show makes Jesus feel like a big brother who tells terrible fishing jokes. None of this registers on Nielsen boxes. It shows up in WhatsApp groups, in letters to the production office, in TikTok duets where a teenage girl sobs quoting Mary Magdalene, "I was one way, and now I am completely different." That line's been memed in Portuguese, printed on T-shirts in Nairobi, and quoted by a Catholic bishop in Manila. Metrics miss the point. The show's win isn't in the numbers, it's in the stories hiding behind them. So here we are. The show Hollywood ignored is now homework for film students, sermon fodder for pastors, and comfort food for insomniacs. If you've ever felt overlooked, outfunded, or told your story doesn't fit the algorithm, let this be your proof. All it took was one ridiculous idea, crowdfund a Jesus show, and a community crazy enough to buy in. Want to join the ridiculous? Download the app, watch an episode, and if it wrecks you in the best way, send the price of a latte to the next season. Somewhere, a kid who's never heard of TBN is about to meet a rabbi who laughs at dad jokes, and that meeting might just change everything.